Good afternoon, good morning. How's everyone doing today? It's your host, the Duncan Dad. A little bit of low intro, straight to the show today. Of course, this is my other room that I have in my other mansion, my other house, in the area, visiting the great Tony Bruno down here in Cape Coral, Florida. Get those guys to say a little hello, hello later. Hopefully, this looks all right when we're getting there. It's the first time setting up outside on location. But happy for everyone to be with us today. Thank you for joining the show one more quarter. And that, after an exciting, fun filled weekend of sports extravaganza, I mean, how crazy is the NFL this year? I've got to really give a shout out. See if I can get this guy to pop up here. Yeah, Brian, what's up, B Dub? I bring up my chat. Gotta move with the mouse around. Blah, 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 blah. Kudos to the Eagles fans and the Philadelphia fans for regaling our first lady last night with chants of "We love Joe Biden, we love Joe Biden." I think that's what they were saying. Popping up today. But anyway, we'll let the chat be for a minute. We're getting what's up, man? Good sport. Oh man, this weekend with sports, I went to start, just with that. And if I don't answer you in the chat today, guys, it's because I've got to reorient this. See you. I see you, man. I see you. You out there. Yeah, this weekend was crazy, right? I mean, Padres after going like 5-14 versus the Dodgers, they come back and they take that series. Uh, Houston, after Alvarez hits that home run, uh, just I said it was a soul crusher. It really was, man. There was no way that they were going to come back after that home run, and then you get to game two and he does it again. Then marathon game, 18 innings, another solo home run by Pena. Uh, Houston, man, they're just a really, really good baseball team, and they weathered the storm with Verlander getting shelled. Like I said, coming back, Alvarez, getting that home run, and at that point it was out of place. But the big news, of course, right? Philadelphia, right? Dancing on my own. I mean, it's like a bunch of really good guys, and I think that's kind of like um, the crazy thing in today's day and age with sports. But there are characters on the team, but it's basically regular, everyday, normal dudes. Yeah, they party a little bit and have a little celebration, and whatnot. But nobody's crazy. Nobody's like off the field drama. Nobody's going anything above and beyond like their passion out for the game. Uh, we know Harper and his conservative practices. Church of Jesus Christ, and he's not really a drinker, doesn't curse. He gets excited and passionate, but it's sort of like his mo. Bowman Stott, the same way. Schwarber's, has his party time going on, but Rio Muto, I mean, these guys are just loving and enjoying the game of baseball now. And you know, when I think about what's going on, especially with the teams that are left, we look at the Yankees and we look at the Guardians, and that's still passion its way out. And that game will be tonight. I think it's 7 o'clock. Um, it started to get me thinking about like when you are building something, right? And this is sort of like your life, your relationship, your future, your career. You get in these situations, and it's like where you building for now and building for the future. And a lot of times we go into these endeavors in these relationships and we want the best option. I always have the best option. Gotta have the best option. Gotta have the best option. And a lot of times the best option is dictated by what the world sets as the standard, or what the country sets as a standard, or what society sets as a standard for this is the best. I've looked at everything, and on paper, this is what you need. This is where you should go. This is what you should be doing. And a lot of times it's very subjective, because what we've learned in our human existence is that a lot of times what's best for me isn't necessarily best for this individual over here. Um, I've known a lot of very fortunate and successful individuals who have made a great career either in business for themselves or in the medical field or in sales, and they haven't necessarily come with the degree from Carnegie Mellon or New York University or Columbia. They've went to their local college. They've gone to a Villanova. They've gone to Temple. They've got their MBA from, God forbid, Delaware or something like that. But the fact of the matter is that what we've really, really seen when you're building in the present moment, sure, you would like to have um, all of the bells and whistles. It definitely lends itself to a little more ease of accomplishment. But at some point, that plateaus. And when it plateaus, you really need to have the pieces around you that that are actually complementing you in your endeavors in the present moment. And we have that expectation of, well, by X amount of time and X amount of year, we should meet these milestones. And a lot of times, those milestones, it's not that they're unattainable, and it's not that they're not able to be fulfilled in said time window. The pace at which you do it sometimes really reflects the quality of the end result. And that's not saying you can't be successful in the end, and it's not saying that you can't be fruitful in the end. It's not saying that you cannot be um, long term invested in career, life, relationship, team, etc. Um, but the fulfillment side of it, the reason why you're gonna continue to get up every single day, and the reason why you're gonna continue to uh, keep putting in the time and keep putting in the effort and keep putting up with the bullshit and keep putting up with the well, today it's not really going the way I want to do it. There's nothing special about it, but it's leading towards this set moment. It's leading towards this time that eventually it's going to be realized. And when it's realized, you're hoping that it's not a like a false sense of fulfillment, because there's so many times individuals get into situations, and see it a lot of times with athletes specifically. They go from being um, relatively unknown. We see it in music all the time. We see it in entertainment all the time. Relatively unknown, and all of a sudden, boom, instant fame. And for about 15 minutes of fame, it's amazing, right? Oh my God, this is fantastic. They're the best thing since sliced bread, blah, 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 blah. And then it slowly becomes a fad, little nuance, a little blip. And then it fades away to where not a one hit wonder scenario, but for this brief amount of time, they were good. We had talked to them on the Bleacher Brothers show with AJ Johnson, 8 p.m. on Wednesday, 2 weeks ago, about the historical perspective of what Aaron Judge did this season. And by all, for all intents and purposes, statistically, this season was one of the greatest offensive seasons in baseball history. I mean, um, rivaled some of the greats. Question that came to the forefront was, right now, is someone like Aaron Judge, a Hall of Famer? Now, perspective, the season was a Hall of Fame season. The accomplishment, obviously, will be a Hall of Fame accomplishment in the American League. They're still figuring out, asterisks and shit like that with, is Bonds really the home run? Personally, myself, um, I I'm a Barry Bonds apologist. I loved him when he was in Pittsburgh, even though I hated him because he was, killing the Phillies. But he, if Major League Baseball is not going to do anything about it, and they're not going to give me back money that was spent through that bit of time, 97 to 05, 06, then let's just recognize these guys. It was a blip that happened during this time of baseball. The numbers are gaudy. We understand that. It energized people. It put people in the seats. After 94 coming back off that strike, there was such a wantonness by the baseball community. Like, you've got to wow us. Like, we need something to come back for. And when you take raw talent, you introduce this other component, you get these results. I'm not justifying it, I'm not, promoting it, but I'm not going to ignore it either. I don't want to just be like, oh, well, this didn't exist, right? It's like us in the world with history. We want to reap all the benefits from these situations. We want to take away all of the good nuances, but we don't want to acknowledge a lot of the undertones sometimes. And that's an incomplete story. And you can't have an incomplete story, especially when you're building something. And you're building for the future. You're building for now. Yeah, you need everything laid out in front of you. And then you pick, then you choose what's good, what's bad, what can you tolerate, what you can't tolerate. And you really do run into a situation where best options on paper, best options in people, best options in players, best options in job placement, isn't necessarily what you need. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm not saying that you shouldn't strive for the best, but just know that when you strive for the best and you get to that level, you need to be able to match it all the time, right? There's a lot of individuals they wake up and it's like boom, total type A, let's go, boom, 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 high energy, and they're like that from dawn till dusk, even while they're sleeping. Stuff's going on. A lot of people want to be around that. A lot of people want to be inside of. A lot of people want to, you know, take that on as their own. You have got to be prepared as the sun moves around us here. You have to be prepared to meet that energy the same way that you want to take it. If you can, amazing. Bust it out. Go for it. Do what you need to do. If you cannot, sometimes in order to get to that point, to meet your threshold, to exceed your threshold, to punch through the glass ceiling, you need to temper the personal expectations that you have and address the reality. And a lot of times that means, hey, I may be good, or she may be good, or he may be good, or they may be good, or this entity itself may be good at X, Y, and Z. And unless they're affording me the opportunity for my personal growth to come into this, maybe if I take a little step back, I will really see the fulfillment. I will really see this expectation that I've set for myself become a reality. Because when you go into something, whether people say it or not, there's expectations, right? There's always base level expectations. And in the beginning for ourselves, we have to have our own expectation, right? What am I willing to give in? What am I willing to contribute? What am I willing to uh, have as my base threshold? Like, what is the bare minimum? You know, well, Bob, I'm going to do just enough not to get fired, kind of, or call me anytime, any hour, any day. I'm going to drop what I'm doing. I'm going to be all in. Or do I fit into the center? Do I fit into this balance of I want to be available? I don't want to have to push myself all the time, but understanding this. Now, when you're in a whole and you're in a team and you are in a corporate sort of world, it's very important that you have this defined or you have it laid out and you acknowledge whose strength lies in this area, whose strength lies in this area. But at the same time, being able to overlap with one another and not feel a threat, not feel belittled, not feel let down, not feel like you're being superseded by someone else and you're not as valuable, you're not worth as much to the overall goal. Because as individuals, as people, we want to be acknowledged for the things that we're doing, and we want those who are around us to see the value in what we're doing, even though it might not necessarily be things that they place value in. And that's very tough to deal with. There's a lot of times then we're like, oh, why didn't he, thank me for cleaning the house? Why didn't he thank me for, contributing my money? Why didn't he thank me for getting us to the, like, and then conversely, like, why wasn't she giving me attention? Why was she like, such in a mood because I, did this, and this, or, how come I'm not getting recognized for producing the same amount of, conversions and sales and little Jimmy or Joey or Super Sally over there is getting knowledge for setting up two or three business contacts that haven't even come through yet. um, Being comfortable in that process and in that journey. Caveat: sometimes, and it goes back to our expectations and reality and building for now and for the future. Sometimes what looks good on paper isn't what you really need. And when that component still exists, unless there's the change, unless there's the compromise, unless there is a giving and willingness to persevere, many times you have to step back, you have to remove. It's the whole addition by subtraction, even though it might be to everyone on the outside the greatest asset at that time. I think about the Phillies in this situation. It's a great example, right? Girardi was brought in to be this new modern manager, analytics, a players guy, uh, knew how to manage big personalities, always thinking, sort of like the more polished version of someone like a Kapler who was just getting into this, you know, I got the guys back and we're going to use the statistics and we're going to play the odds, blah blah blah. The catch is that may work for another set of individuals and another business and another arena, and you may actually be a better fit where you don't see it, right? So we remove Girardi, and what almost instantaneously happens, the the expectation in the relationship, right? The expectation in the business partnership, the expectation in the social interaction that we have across the board, using that as our metaphor, um, it becomes relaxed. And instead of people forcing themselves to be something that they're not, or forcing themselves to overperform, we like to call it pressing. In sports, they call it pressing. Um, the same thing like in music. Like, pick your favorite musical artist of all time. Look back over their catalog if they've had a sustained career, which comes along with this conversation. There's many times you look back and you're like, man, what? Why did you make that album? Why did you put out that song? Like, why did you collaborate with so and so? At the time, they're riding the flow, right? They're riding that ebb and flow. But in reality, not expectation, in reality, it wasn't your best work. We can see that your heart and soul wasn't it. We can see that you weren't having fun. We can see that you weren't relaxed. We can see that you were strictly going through the motions. And you may have succeeded and you may have achieved a return that was enough to offset your personal investment, but the actual fulfillment that you had from it and the fulfillment that those around you who are sharing in it, and then subsequently long term, you can see, yeah, you know what, benchmark album, benchmark movie, fantastic. But oh my god, why are we making this? I mean, look at Tom Hanks, right? You've got Saving Private Ryan, you got Philadelphia, you got Forrest Gump, you've got Apollo 13, and then you also have like Turner and Hooch. I mean, like, that's not bad, but they were nowhere on the same level as these other cinematic masterpieces. At that point, coming out of his 80s stuff, breaking out of the burbs, breaking out of Money Pit, breaking out of, that shell of in big, how do I get to this next point, blah, 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 blah. I haven't had Green Mile yet, haven't had Watson and Castaway yet. Oh, here's something fun. But now he may have enjoyed it. He may have liked it. But in his cinematic catalog, maybe pressing a little bit, maybe kind of taking it easy. And when you get to the point where you can afford to do those things, sure, you can have a Turner and Hooch. You can have a movie uh, that doesn't necessarily fulfill you in all the ways that you want to be fulfilled. But yet, hey, it's meeting a need, right? For that time, it's fun, etc., etc. What we see many times when this is a resounding commentary, right? When things are going well, not only for yourself but for those around you, there's this there's like this organic chemistry that exists, right? And you really can't put your finger on the exact instance, and sometimes you can, but most of the times, it's like the simplest little thing that sort of sets off this chemistry. And so many times, so many times, we do it in our relationships. We do it in business for sure. We do it in our interactions, even with ourselves, right? You try to create this chemistry. You try to create the moment, create the memory for the kids, create the memory for you and your spouse and your loved ones, create the sale of the year, create the product of the year. Many times it's strictly happenstance. It is strictly things begin to line up because all of this back work that you've been doing is beginning to position you in the right spot. Catch, when you have that opportunity, it's difficult sometimes to move forward with it. Right? A lot of times it's like, man, I really don't have the money to do this, or hey man, I really don't, want to upset that person because they've been with us for so long, or hey, I really don't think I want to have this conversation with X, Y, and Z because it may rock the boat. That goes back to your own personal expectations, your own personal fulfillment. How long are you willing to compromise, for yourself? And if you're with the right person, you're around the right people, if you are in the right environment and organization, then those compromises, that visceral understanding of a situation becomes not only second nature, but you wantonly and gladly perform whatever action and function it is without any sort of expectation of, hey, I need something back for doing this, because you've really committed into this vehicle of this whole is driving forward and it's moving forward. And you understand that you are picking one another up on the field, off the field, in the boardroom, at happy hour, in the network meeting, in passing, when you are um, connecting with other individuals. Hey, I might not be really good at XYZ. However, I've got this friend, da 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 da. They do this really well. Acknowledging, like, at right now, look, this guy, this girl, they're hitting their flow, right? Like, so I love the fact that, you know, I'm here, and I love the fact that I'm contributing, and I love the fact that this is rolling for me. But right now, this component is really, really having their stride. And even though I'm working on my thing over here and I'm pushing through and I'm holding my own and I'm sustaining, I know my set time's coming. I know it's going to click, but let's really maximize what's happening over here. This way, when this begins to get into its challenge, I'm going to be there to step in, and they can lean on me. You can lean on one another. And there's never any, the only thing that's competitive about it is making sure you are present, involved, doing what you're called to do. You're not holding it over anybody. They're not holding it over you. You're not slamming on your desk or blowing up your messages and emails. Oh, fuck you! What are you doing? You should be here. Blah blah. Everyone, there's this understanding. There's this compromise. You're picking one another up. Um, Understanding that there is going to be uneven roles, but when it all meshes, it all clicks, and I was one of those guys where I'm like, man, why are they celebrating winning a wild card series? Why are they celebrating, winning a division series? It's not the big tamale. It's not the big cake, the big dessert that I'm looking for at the end. And then it smacked me and hit me, and I was like, dude, like you've really got to appreciate those little victories, and you need to acknowledge those little victories. And I was kind of like, when you mark those little victories, when you do mark those little moments of success, you're slowly like marking the ladder. So now you don't want to go back below that, right? That was good. It wasn't like your fulfillment, but yeah, like I don't want to be anything less than a wild card winner. I don't want to be anything less than a division winner. I don't want to be anything less than my employee of the month. I don't want to be anything less than my, you know, most present and best, father, spouse, wife, etc. I want to be there and maintain that and improve upon that. And we see so many times that when things are taken away in those instances, right? That we don't feel like we should celebrate these little victories. That we don't think we should celebrate these little moments of hubris, right? So many times the adversity comes in to our life. Sometimes it's our own doing. That goes back to our fulfillment, our expectations, our own positions that we put ourselves in. And many times there are things that are outside of our control. Hurricane, bankruptcies, business get closed down, acquisitions, um, the personal actions and choices of other individuals that you surround yourself with. In those moments, outside of dangerous, abusive, uh, evil situations where you should remove yourself from it. And maybe that's the catalyst that removes you from it. Hopefully, it's nothing so tragic or traumatic that it actually physically and mentally and whatever affects you long term to where that you can't recover from it. But you see these instances, using sports as the paradigm in the media days that, or bands, right? Oh my God, band member died. What are we gonna do? Stop playing music? Push through. Oh, so and so's sick. They can't do it anymore. What are you gonna do? Well, let's just give it up. Fuck it. The whole world's awful. Everything's against us. I can't do this anymore. Pack it up. It was a great run. Bye. No, a lot of times you stay the course. Stay the course. You keep doing what you're doing. You pick up the weight for someone else, some other thing, some other entity. And you always be rewarded if it's done with the mentality and mindset that you are in a good place, doing it for the right reasons, doing for the noble reasons. Yeah, sometimes noble reasons are I got to keep a roof over my head, food on my table, clothes on my back. I got to make sure my kids, my family, my cats, my dogs are have what they need in order to survive. I need to have what I need in order to survive. You know, people stop getting caught up on the fact that, and this is a Mother Teresa thing, right? Like doing ordinary things in extraordinary ways. Like sometimes keeping your house nice because that's where you're at right now is a beautiful, wonderful thing. Sometimes getting up every single day, repeating the same process 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years is a beautiful thing. Because even though you're not necessarily seeing the immediate result, right, the immediate fulfillment, you're putting that coin in the piggy bank every day, every day, every day. So one day, you get to break open that piggy bank and enjoy the fruits of your labor. Now, that's not saying you don't have to dip back into that piggy bank and make yourself happy and enjoy the small victories, but it does mean that consistency and perseverance and understanding and humility and excited humility, you become this, I don't know, better rounded person. Your relationships better. Your business relationships are better. Your life in general is better because you are you're gracious and you're grateful and you're giving and there's a gratitude. And when you have this going on, and if you're around the right people, right? If you're around the right people and you stop listening to the noise and you stop listening to, oh, you should be with her, you should be with him, you should definitely work there, oh, you should be on that team. This is the person you need to have, blah, blah. You have this honesty about everything and you move forward and you are this more giving. You want to share this with those that are around you. When you have that, man, that type of honesty, that type of energy, that type of chemistry, I mean, it is like super contagious. Like, have you ever walked into a room and you just see people who are like pissed off at the world? You might get an energy and make, yeah, fuck this, I'm pissed off. I can't, I just people, da, 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 da. That's fine, right? And that things like that, and that plateaus. Like, you can't get any more angry until you act. And this goes back to Friday's talk, right? So, like, once you reach a certain level of frustration and anger, what happens? It becomes action. And sometimes it's misplaced action, sometimes it's unintentional action, sometimes it's those around you who are really there for you, positive, supporting you, they become the victim, real word victim, the victim of this frustration, anger, etc., etc. And that starts a whole other conversation. We'll get into that another day about the effects that we have in a negative way for the things that we do based on the environment, the stimulus, the relationship stimulus, etc., etc. Not the stimulus that they gave you for free, that they then taxed half of it and took another half credit away, because I guess that's how that works. But it's a you want the actions that you're taking to be always forward moving in a positive way, right? You don't want to take an action unless you absolutely have to. But even in that instance, where if it's not necessarily a positive moralistic action by the sense of like defending something, you know, we always talk about, intent. You should stick up for your principles. You should stick up for your values. You should stick up for inherent rights and wrongs and fundamental values. That's not saying you can't mess up, right? And we've all talked a million times in the past. I've messed up. She's messed up. He's messed up. Take ownership of it. I take ownership of it. Do the penance. Do what you need to do in order to set society's mind, your people closest to your mind, to at ease. Set your own mind, you know, at ease. Get yourself to a point where you've resolved whatever problem or ailment or issue was. And then, as many people have said, and this is where I always question our great country. I acknowledge the past, but I can't live in the past. I can't live in the future. I need to live right now with who I am in front of you. And if what he, she, us, them entity is doing right now is wrong and evil and bad, please speak on it. That doesn't mean that you don't exercise caution. That doesn't mean that you don't have a bit of temperance. What it does mean is that if you are being shown that someone has grown and you're being honest, someone is moving forward, and a corporation, person, place, they're all moving forward. Everybody wants a second chance, right? Everybody wants to be America. Everybody wants to give those opportunities. Well, then we give it because this is a new person in front of you. This is, a person with all of this experience, all of this honesty, all of this grateful, gratitude, tragedy, expectation, reality in their world. Believe me, those individuals who have been through stuff, whether it's life, death, uh, divorce, abuse, uh, stuff in their jacket, criminal stuff, growth, happiness, loss, banks, they are all living that every single day in some manner. And those who have come past it, those who have acknowledged it, accepted it, and begun to put things back in place, and they move on and they've reestablished and they do anything and they're now contributing and good. And that's something to be celebrated, right? That's something to be celebrated. It's the Einstein theory where he walks in the classroom. I've seen this before, and he puts up the examples. I think it's 1 times 9 all the way to 81. And it's like, hey, you messed this one up. Well, sure I did. You're damn right I did. That's right, 100%. But this other 9 factors, 10 factors, completely right. I'm not saying that you don't have the the rationale and the power to judge on what things were. You know, we shouldn't judge, but we do judge. It influences us. We want to protect ourselves and our interests and those around us. 100%. If we're honest, people are honest. Um, and it's difficult, very difficult. But we move forward. It gets back to acknowledging sometimes that the people that are around us, the institution that we work for, the corporations where we invest, the politicians that we vote for, the other acquaintances that are in our lives may not always be, the best for us. And you really want those people around you. And it comes from like in the weirdest places, right? It comes in places that, you're not traditionally looking for this. Sometimes it does, right? Sometimes you have high school sweethearts. Sometimes you have, mom and dad's business. Sometimes you have my uncle's business. Sometimes it's just a fit, right? There's always Murphy's Law. There's always, not the exception, but there's always instances where, hey, it just works. Yeah, it just works. You know, cut. They could say what East Coast like, oh, it's cut from the same cloth. Cut from the same cloth. Yeah, sometimes it is. That's awesome. That's gravy. But for the majority of people now uh, that we've surpassed the traditional model of relationship and career building, it's super duper important that you really surround yourself with people who share, your best interest in a common goal with. And the funny thing is that it really, really challenges us from the way that we were, you know, first formed, first shaped, and then acknowledging, hey, this better over here. It's like for the longest time, this is so simple, right? But for the longest time, I had stuff my brothers religiously peanut butter jelly, grape jelly, white bread for lunch for, oh my God, I mean, how many years? How many years, right? I got so sick of it that I was like, I love peanut butter. I love, I love bread, not necessarily, the Wonder White bread, but that's what we had, you know. But I'm so sick of this combination that I'm never gonna eat this again. It turns my stomach. Ah, fuck, here we go, another peanut butter jelly sandwich. But now you have a nice piece of bread, wheat bread, maybe some grains in there, kind of crunchy, toasted a little bit, put the peanut butter on. And instead of grape jelly, what if you give me the raspberry preserves? Give me the strawberry preserves. Give me a little blackberry currant on there. I could eat that to a point where I would consume the entire jar of both things. It came in a different shape, it came in a different size, it came in something that I was not always familiar with. We've moved past the traditional building career, building relationships in the same little cookie cutter box, the majority, than in the past. It used to always be, oh, there's the three brothers. This one worked for, this company with dad. This one was over here. They married their high school sweetheart, and then there's this guy. He left town. He went out and saw the world. He did school here. He lived over there. He tried this. He tried that. Da, 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 da. The the catch is you're finding more and more people who have ventured out on their own, and we're really at this full on transition stage where, oh, ironic, right? It's so ironic, right? Like where you have to reintroduce yourself to someone and something in some place in some company in some corporation. Um, you're not going to work with all the guys that are banging the drum, screaming, go birds, go birds. It's like there's a Bears fan, there's a Cardinals fan, there's a Cowboys fan. Unfortunately, there's whomever else, and you're taking all of these things, and instead of just locking in on one little nuance, one little difference, wait a minute, I love what they got going on, and there's this one little thing that we don't necessarily see eye to eye on. But let's, we get past it. Let's talk about it. Let's work because everything else is going so well. So you're challenging yourself to be honest with those people around you, and taking into account that sometimes the best people around you aren't necessarily going to be exactly the same way that you have always been familiar with. The Bible, right? They call it like separating the chaff from the wheat, and that's true. It's like it, sometimes the chaff happens to be this same resounding conversation voice that you hear in your head that you've had for so long. Some people, it's very comfortable. For some people, it's very reassuring. For some people, it's the voice that they want to hear. For some people, it's the voice that they long to hear. It's the one that they search for, right? It sets their mind at ease, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when you've not in that situation, when you're not like that, then don't be afraid to cut away some of this noise to find what you're looking for. Because in the end, right, no matter what it is, baseball team, corporation, personal relationships, private relationships, you're always, and specifically the relationship with yourself, right? I mean, it should be yourself. I mean, there is something like there's a you know putting yourself first shouldn't be selfish. It should be selfless. And it's such, I mean, our whole world is filled with paradox. And when you're really improving yourself, and when you're really investing in yourself and building into yourself, these other things begin to show themselves around you. You know, relationships are cultivated more easily, there's understanding. You become more comfortable with accepting something that would be inherently foreign to you as a positive influence in your life, and a lot of times letting go of things that are hanging on and hanging on and hanging on. And that's not saying you can't be in something that needs a little work in your work, but if that's the case, there needs to be, you know, an equal engagement from all parties. That's not saying that one person will do more, one person will do less in specific areas underneath that umbrella. But when you're with someone, when you're working for a corporation, when you're working with an outside entity, you've seen those who their expectation is, hey, show up and do the work, have a nice day. You've seen the ones that are supportive of the people that are with them and underneath them and working with them. And then you've seen the other ones who, you have to, light that fire. And be like, yo, what's up? Are we in this? And the takeaway is that when you find that consistency, and it's consistency in the engagement, where you're like, hey, look, I hear you, I understand you. We really want to do this with our projections, but it's not there right now. But I'm acknowledging where you're coming from. I'm acknowledging, your loyalty and your work, and I'm acknowledging that we're going to be here for you, and I'm going to be there for da 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 da. There's this chemistry that develops. You're like, all right, yeah, man, all right, cool. We got this. Let's keep working at this. Let's keep forging ahead. Let's keep persevering. It's gonna hit. It's gonna hit. It's gonna hit. Don't have that when there isn't that engagement. That's when you have those round tables, you have those discussions, and again, it comes back to you. Then, what is the level that you're willing to tolerate for you, yourself, and those around you, for your personal growth, for your personal development, for your relationship development, for your career development, until it becomes detrimental. The hard thing for a lot of us to acknowledge is that the timetable, number one, is different for everyone. And number two, that expectation of time can be greatly drawn out and extended, or it can be moved ahead at light speed. Each action, each reaction brings its own set of consequences. It brings its own sense of reward. That's why being aware, being engaged, understanding, having conversation, listening, not just running your mouth and giving your hot fucking take. Everybody can do that. Everyone can do that. And I'm going to tell you, you have enough of those hot takes, you have enough of those opinions, you have enough of whatever behind you with no substance, with no engagement, no understanding, no contribution. Know what's going to happen? Shit's going to go to hell. You're going to act out. They're going to act out. And both parties, both corporations, both whatever, you are going to walk away worse than where. You just are. That is uh, that's like a fundamental expectation of reality. Like that has passed that litmus test for eons and generations. Like people, someday you hold on, butt heads, but finally one day somebody fucks up, or until there's an event that is like the catalyst to just blow everything up. But we've seen it over and over and over and over. And then you're not even talking about the influence of the outside in those situations, right? And the influence of the outside, I mean, you could be in the greatest thing in the world. You could have the greatest partnership in the world. You could have the greatest relationship in the world. You have the greatest uh, endeavor going on. And then someone sits there and says, you know what? We don't like the fucking color green. The color green is, I don't know, give it some kind of ism. Boom. Just like that, done. But even in those instances, if you're understanding, if you're engaging, if you're always improving, if you're always building yourself, might be difficult, might suck, but you'll be able to walk away from whatever situation is better and not worse. You'll be able to walk away with this understanding of yourself that, hey, listen, all this happens, but you know what? I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be all right. I'm going to be all right. I'm going to be okay. Right? I mean, you're going to do it. So, as we wrap up today and we move forward, Wednesday, 12:15, one more quarter. Myself, Doug, and Dad. Put a little mark there. Maybe driving us by the airport. We don't know. But we'll be here. We'll do the show. 8 o'clock, AJ Johnson, Bleacher Brothers show. Tuesday, tomorrow, should have the Aftermath show with Captain Ron. Monday night, Retro Ads with Luker. They may actually be doing a simul watch with the ALDS, Cleveland, and Yankees tonight at 7 p.m. I think it's still. Check your listings, might be FS1. I know they've been bouncing back and forth. Man, how great would it be if Cleveland won? Not that I have anything against the Yankees, except for the World Series and the fans. And Nick the Flick too. Shout out to Nick the Flick. But you know, I just the teams that are left, right? Houston, they're being Houston, but a lot of momentum, a lot of good chemistry right now. San Diego, it's like it's like Philadelphia West, losing a star, injuries, nothing really clicking, and then you wake up and you look at the postseason. Blake Snell's pitching his ass off. Clevenger looks like he's back in Cleveland. Hader, I didn't even. um, Hader is finally turning back into that Brewers closer that was so dominant, And then you look up and down the lineup and you're like, holy shit. I love me some Jake Cronenworth. Love me some Jake Cronenworth. Soto's going to be Soto. Machado, I think Manny Machado, he will go down on par with Trout's career by the time it's all said and done. He perseveres. He shows up. He's consistent. He's relatively healthy. I'm jinxing him now, but I mean, like he's a standard fixture that's there, and he's not going to leave San Diego. He's out of Baltimore. He's on the West Coast. It's warm. It's nice. He's got his money. He's going to be there to finish out his career. Imagine if this team had Tatis, right? And he wasn't hurt. So San Diego right now, riding this momentum, built for this little bit of run. I mean, you go 5-14 versus the Dodgers during the year. Man, you take a little shot on the chin, then you roll off the wins. There's something to be said about familiarity, right? For as great of a record that the Braves had, there wasn't anyone on that Philadelphia roster that was intimidated playing the Braves. None. They had been there, they had seen them, they had done that, they had faced these guys before. So there's a lot that goes into that, which is wonderful when you think about what the NLCS is going to be about. Two young, hungry teams, lots of chemistry. A lot of people say playing with house money, and that goes back to those moments where everything is clicking, right? We're not supposed to be here, but all right. But in a way, they are supposed to be there because they built for the future in the present. Harper signed, Realmuto signed, Barber signed, Castellanos signed, Wheeler signed, Nola signed. It's like, all right, these pieces are in place. Now we need to tinker with the other parts, get the stuff to click. Boom starts out slow, picks it back up, has his error game. I hate this fucking place. Everybody chides him. He comes back. He owns it. Completely adored and loved now. The chemistry being created. Look at the Girardi when he goes as the moments, but everything starting to come together. Same thing with San Diego. Lots of injuries. Lots of injuries. Lots of, hey, we got 3 out of 4. No, we got 2 out of 4. Now our pitching's here. Blah, blah, blah. Darvish starting to come back to the Yu Darvish that he was brought to San Diego to be. Coming together. Houston. They are extremely talented. Extremely talented. Top to bottom. But the energy that they've got going on right now, special. That's why when I look at New York and I look at Cleveland, there's something brewing in Cleveland. There's something brewing. Now they might lose tonight. They might be done with it, but they've taken this working together, this coming together, this using everyone's best part, and they've turned it into wins and they've turned it into energy. So Wednesday night, looks like I'll probably be on with AJ Johnson, 8 p.m. for the show. Aftermath tomorrow with Captain Ron and Reese. Retro Ads with Luker, Daily Hustle every day prior to my show. Anthony Manuel, Art of the Roof, we're out there. Happy belated birthday. Young guy. No, I'm no spring chicken. Way to go, Ant. Later on in the week, we're going to have Tony Bruno's show. 7 to 9 p.m. East Coast, Friday. And then immediately following Tony Bruno Show, myself, John from AA Frere, Play Action Reel, Penguin AZ, slew of other guests running around right after that show. So great week on No Filter, great content. Check out a lot of the other programming specifically for more specific, in-depth breakdown of the sports. I mean, I can't wait to jump back on Wednesday, talk about what's going on with baseball. NLCS opens up on Tuesday. The only game on Tuesday, I think it's 8:05 out there in San Diego. Let me check. 8:03 p.m. NLCS. Padres host the Phillies on Tuesday. Yankees in Cleveland tonight, Game 5, 7 p.m. And as we walk away and everyone enjoys their afternoon, our future is not written, but you definitely control the people, places, things, and reactions. Write yourself a story on your own terms. Never, ever be afraid. All right, everyone, enjoy your day. Thank you for joining me on One More Quarter. I will talk to you guys later on. Please feel free to follow me on Twitter at the Duncan Dad, Instagram the same, and stay safe,